Good late Thursday, early Friday. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now, giving a look at those temperatures here across the region. You do see it's very chilly here and toward those late night hours, wee hours of the morning. I mean, kind of telling the story. 32 in Lake City. I know we have a freeze warning in effect for many of us. If they're not official under a freeze warning toward like the north and west, it's just because of the overall warning process there. Because we've already had a certain level here reached earlier on with the freezing conditions. The Tallahassee office does it a little bit different than Jacksonville office, so I won't really go into the official map, but there's a wind chill threat here, wind chill alerts in play for Roy, just most of our area here, so just be mindful of that as these air temperatures are just telling one story of the situation here. As we're looking at things across our area, our 62 counties. I know we have again the freeze warning in effect here. I have that up in the corner on a lot of the information just to kind of remind you guys what we're talking about because it's a pretty big deal and the like here. I know there is a freeze warning officially in play for like Albany. It's because there's a chance it could get a little bit cooler up there, closer to like 24 degrees, give or take. So that's why I know I don't have the map up, but again, it's a little bit tricky on that as it's a wind chill, threat here for the rest of us. I say wind chill advisory. It's a cold weather advisory now, as the name was changed on that here to kind of try to simplify things a little bit. But as we're looking here, those plants, hopefully you protected them because otherwise, it's something here that they, might have a lot of trouble now that we're going to get a freeze after we haven't had one for a while in a lot of places. We did have some frost going back earlier in the week for the first time in several weeks, but as I go ahead and switch on over to the wind chills, I mean, these, even colder feeling out there, that wind blowing to some degree. I mean, it feels like 23 degrees in Albany right now, it feels like 27 in Keystone. So just again, telling that story. The actual air temperatures on this map. I know we're right here east of Stark, 34 degrees as of about 2 a.m. here. So, it's going to get even colder. I have the satellites, some radar products on here. So, as we kind of look at some different things here in toward the weather center, I mean, these temperatures are just extraordinarily cold. As I take that off there, the satellite that was kind of blocking the view a little. I mean, look at these temperatures toward like southeast Missouri. It's -1 right now in Farmington, 0 in Perryville. That kind of tells a story there. I mean, just how chilly things are. You get areas in northern Missouri, -5 there. As we get further up into toward the state, -6 in St. Joseph, Missouri. And you see in Iowa, there's a wind chill factor where it feels like -23 there in parts of the state. I mean, these are just extraordinarily cold, really dangerous situation. We'll go back to the air temperature. I mean, it's 22, the actual air temperature in Dallas here at the current moment, 1 a.m. Central Time, give or take. So, except for areas like from about Orlando south here, I mean, it is, just a country, as we're looking, toward the east and the central time zones where we're just sitting at very, very cold levels here. So, I know, just an incredible picture here for later in February after we were so warm. Now we've had all that snow toward areas like Virginia Beach and even toward Raleigh, a little less than Virginia Beach, but still a big deal for those folks. But we aren't in alert mode anymore because, there's not something that we're imminently tracking here now. That was such a big winter weather threat, though. Toward the center of the country, the East Coast there. I mean, snow's still not going to melt for a while when it's this cold, so still can be very dangerous out there, obviously, but something to just be mindful of. But what an event that was there as we're looking toward those different communities. And in Missouri, there's actually a few thousand without power right now, and these temperatures are not where you want to be, in without power. About 4,000 customers in the dark in St. Charles County in Missouri right now. Hopefully that's not something that'll be lasting too long, but just some extraordinarily cold readings here. I know you see some actual wintry precip toward like Denver, that's a little more noteworthy, and then these other reports, these aren't, I know you see all this and you think, oh, we have a lot going on. Well, it's not as heavy as snow, near as heavy as snow in some of these areas, and in the areas that are getting it, it's more common to get snow. not like Virginia Beach. I mean, they got a foot or so of snow there toward Virginia Beach. They're never going to forget that. Maybe the most you're going back to, I was looking at some things, maybe 2010, maybe it was December 26, 2010, and that was the same day we got our flurries here. The last time we got flurries here where I'm at, Eustis Dark until January. So something, that don't ever forget a foot of snow up that way, as we're just continuing to watch the overall situation. Let's go ahead and go on over toward the graphics here right now. As we kind of look at the overall situation under that rainfall forecast for the next 7 days, you can see here toward areas there like Houston and like Charles, they're going to get a little bit, but not a huge deal. We just had all that flooding up further north though, and then they had the snow on top of that. Just an awful set of circumstances, deadly. Quite a few areas of Kentucky there. It's just tragic, loss of life there. You see the water area. I'm not expecting a whole bunch of rain. This may be underdone just a little bit, though. Towards some more areas here, it's only been about 100th to a 10th of an inch over the next 7 days. I know you can go to cloudweather.com/radar for an interactive look at things when we're not on the air. I do have rain chances just a little higher than what this would portray here from the Weather Prediction Center. But let's go ahead and see the covered map. If we have anything that breaks, for our area, make sure we're on for it in terms of like a tornado warning storm. We're not expecting that next 7 days, but again, rain chances a little bit higher than what that other graphic would indicate here. And by the way, we're going to be off on Tuesday. No formal update on Tuesday. Our next scheduled update will be in a week from now. So, make sure to tune in. But also, if you don't watch it live, you can watch it on demand on the different platforms there. As we're looking at things, Facebook there, Casey Cloud Reacts, Cloud Weather, Twitter /X at Cloud Casey, YouTube at Cloud Weather, Twitch Cloud Weather, and cloudweather.com. So again, kind of the scenario here as we're looking at things, as we're tracking the overall scenario. We're in Bradford County, and again, watching things for the 62 counties. And so it's setting up to come on in the next week, but there are some rain chances a little bit higher. And if something, were to pop up that's inclement, we'll make sure to let you guys know. But otherwise, next one will update in a week from now. You see a picture here. I do have rain chances a bit higher than what you might see other places here for like later Sunday and early Monday. Not, all day Sunday, not all day Monday, but later Sunday and early Monday. Some of the guidance, especially the American model, is really, honestly going higher than 40, but other models not so much. So kind of trying to split the difference here a little bit. A lot of indicators lower, but, one indicator a good bit higher. So, this is a pattern where things can kind of change pretty quick on us here at the forecast. I wanted to kind of, make sure we're, being careful here, kind of making sure we're taking into consideration some different, varying scenarios. But cold, cold, cold here tonight. Coldest we've seen all month. In February, I believe, we had 17 freezes last month here, Eustis Dark. I believe this will be our first freeze here of the month. If we do end up, in fact, getting it here, Eustis Dark may end up being the only freeze of the month. We'll see, Saturday morning, 35 degrees. We could have some cloud cover around, so that, might limit us even here in Stark from getting that freeze east of town. But I know I've been watching some, maybe more concerns for something like that in the ward, a place like Georgia here, as we're looking at things, as we're tracking the situation. So, as we're looking up that way, Saturday morning could be a bit colder in toward some of those spots, than up here in toward North Central Florida. There's a freeze watch in play even towards some areas up that way, as we're looking ahead in toward the timeline. We're going to continue to watch things, continue to track them. I know, just kind of, telling that weather story here. Again, late Sunday into early Monday, could have some rain around, it could even be a bit warmer than when I have 46 there. Monday morning, it could be a tad warmer than that if we do get the precip. But I increased that from what I had, in the earlier forecast. We see Saturday morning 35. Again, just kind of telling that story here. Only warming up to about 65 there during the day, below average, but then we kind of jump above average as you look, or at least 2 average first before we kind of exceed that there with the 70s coming up next week. But we'll continue to watch things. Again, don't be too worried about Sunday night and the Monday, precip here for now at this point, as we're kind of looking at things. It doesn't look to be, something that is, a huge deal. But again, we'll watch it here. We'll track it for you. But this is crazy, First freeze of the month, we had that cool air earlier in the week. We didn't quite get the freezing here to start. And we haven't gotten there quite yet. We got down to 33. Right now we're only at 34, but 33.6 to round up. But my point being is that it's a situation here where, as we look ahead, we're going to be, in a scenario here where we're seeing those readings here, get to about 74 Tuesday, 77 Wednesday, or Thursday, 40% chance of rain. So that's going to be something here that could come in. Some of the models, show something a little bit stronger, and that was more even earlier in the week. Some of that's backed off a little, but I still wanted to keep that at 40. We're just so far out. You just never know. It'll be our next storm update in a week, so I don't want you guys caught off guard here. So 40 means it's a little more likely than not that you won't get it, but it's definitely something where these chances, could increase here toward late Sunday, Monday, and then Thursday, but they could also decrease. I mean, they could really be, mitigated here and be fairly low. I mean, we're talking about only it could be down to like 10-20% by the time things roll around with these, or it could be up to like 60 or 70, give or take, depending on what ends up happening. So just wanted to give you a heads up, since again, our next form update a week from now, unless something breaks, really imminent, we're not going to come back on here next week, as we're tracking things. So just give you that early heads up here now as we're looking at that planning forecast. So, it could be a little bit breezy here at times. I mean, tonight even we have the wind chill advisory, it's cold weather advisory. You're not used to calling it cold weather advisory now, but because it's the wind chill factor that's causing it. But to simplify things, they're calling it the cold weather advisory now. Could have had a cold weather warning, but we haven't had any of those here, toward like Stark this winter. I know we did have some of that further west. It got overlooked because we had the snow then. But toward like Stark, I believe we have not had a cold weather warning here. A lot of times we'll get really cold weather and then we won't have the precip, so you can focus on the cold, but we were just inundated with that winter weather storyline in January with all that snow, so that kind of got overlooked. We had some of that toward the Tallahassee counties anyway, who were looking, some of those were under a cold weather warning, I believe, which was a wind chill warning converted. That was a pretty big deal, so, kind of like an excessive heat warning almost in the summertime, something that's pretty rare around here, but it can happen. So that's kind of your storyline there. I mean, of course, this part of the country is more used to the heat than the cold, especially north central Florida. And it's pretty good looking like Wednesday here. That looks good. I mean, 77. That's nice weather really on that Wednesday. I mean, bigger temperature contrast can mean it can be a little bit clearer out there sometimes as we're looking at things. So that'll be something we're kind of watching. Which means it can be still chilly in the morning, kind of like a desert sometimes, I guess you could say. You see the chilly reading in the morning there, and then you warm one up. And that's just the case here. It's not as warm as it's been some of these mornings we were seeing, a pattern. We had all that fog around and the like here because we had some warmer readings. Not saying we can't have fog, as we eventually start to warm it up in those mornings. It's just a situation here where when you're cooler like this, it's going to be a little bit harder here in the overall pattern. It's more favorable when you're really above the seasonal low here this time of year. So again, above that seasonal average. So that's kind of storyline here right now. I know, just trying to keep you up to date on exactly what is going on with the overall situation. And we'll be back again in a week here with another update. I'm just kind of looking real quick behind the scenes at a couple of things. I know the fog forecast can always be kind of tricky here as we're looking at things. If you're trying to go out too far with it, the models aren't going to necessarily let you do that. As I look, I'm just kind of looking here right now for tonight. Not really seeing anything as we get ahead there. As we get ahead into word like Saturday morning, not really too much of that around. Maybe a little, but it would probably be a little too cool for that here overall. And the clouds around Could get a little precip here. We'll watch, maybe get a sprinkle when it's pretty cool, but in this pattern, I wouldn't necessarily expect any like wintry precip. If we got a little precip, like Saturday morning here, it's more likely later on in the day, and maybe toward like Orlando, according to the latest, longer range HRRR. But if we got something, earlier in the day, it'd probably be a pattern where we're a little warmer. The cloud move in first, warm things up a bit before you get to precip. It wouldn't necessarily probably be favorable for wintry precip here. So I know we've had it. I believe it was in not 89, but a few years before that in the 80s, we had a snow. I think it was Jackson on March 1st. So it's happened before. I'm doing it off the top of my head. So heard about that over here. I want to say 85 maybe. Let me just look it up real quick here. That's something that, didn't get near much attention in the 89 event, but I believe Jacksonville got a period of snow that kind of just popped on up there, as we're looking back in weather history. So, as we're tracking things here, as we're monitoring, the event this year is going to be something I won't ever forget, though, as we were looking at things here toward, some of those, zones, toward Albany. You're never going to forget all that snow that you guys got there in Dougherty County and Lee County, Georgia, and, Gaston County, Florida even. We're talking about, just so much snow. Just, or Tallahassee, there was still, a lot of snow for them, most in many, many years, but, a lot of it was also sleet there, so that kind of, made things a little bit less fun, but still, a unique set of circumstances. It was, by the way, 1986. That was close, doing it off the top of my head, not, preparing to talk about that. But March 1st, 1986 there, they had some snow in Jacksonville. So, again, it doesn't have very much here at all, and that's not what we're expecting as we're looking ahead. Just mentioning it here, 1986, March 1st, and I'm just looking here. I don't, remember reading this, but just looking at the, Jacksonville Times-Union here, they have information March 2nd, 1980 as well. So interesting to see, not just one, but two very early Marches in there, and that's about the latest we would have had snow there toward, Jacksonville and the like there in the overall timeline. As we're kind of looking at things here, so, in the overall calendar pattern. So, interesting, but again, not expecting that here. It's going to be a pretty, looking like quiet forecast. Again, things could change a little bit. We talked about the rain chances could go up some in those time frames, but just kind of looking at things here. See if there's any questions or comments from any of the viewers at home. I'm watching on any of the different platforms here. I don't see anything, but just thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me. Again, we're going to be off Tuesday. No formal update Tuesday night. We'll be back Thursday night with another update here from the Weather Center. Again, we'll pop back in early or something more to rise. But otherwise, enjoy that night. It is cold. Bundle up. Those kids at the bus stop need to be bundled up on this Friday morning. This is the coldest we've seen since January. Not, that bad compared to we had 17 freezes, in January in terms of at least 17 days. At some point in the 24-hour period, we had a freeze, with the temperature at or below 32 here east of Stark. But, as we're looking at things here in the meteorology, so. Just always kind of interesting to track. We're actually, they're at 34.3 now here east of Stark. So kind of interesting to see that here with the overall meteorology warming up a little bit. You have that cloud cover around, toward some of the region, not everybody, but it's clear, like Gainesville and Jacksonville. But my point is, there's some clouds in the Atlantic there that kind of saw more on the satellite, and then the wind pattern kind of caused, and that's the big story, Roy. You're not going to have as much where you just, Roy Fall and the Roy area is a lot colder than other areas here as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things in the world of meteorology. And tomorrow night, then you have more of the cloud cover. It's not that big of a factor here tonight. Like, tomorrow night it would be more of a factor. Tonight it's more about the wind. That's why we have the cold weather advisory here in play. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking things here in toward the Weather Center. So, Again, just always kind of intriguing to watch everything here as the situation does arise on us here. So that's going to do it for now. Hope you guys have a great night. Let me just really quickly here show up that, a radar view again on the screen for everybody again. There's no precip right now, but you see the clouds in the Atlantic, clouds here and there, but the wind actually, and those wind chills. The bigger story, I know these wind gusts here in some spots pop up a little bit, winds and the like. I know these may not mean a lot to most of you, but these are not calm winds here like we can sometimes get. I mean, northwest at 8 knots, Keystone, so we're talking about 10 or so miles an hour as we're looking here in the nighttime. I mean, that's, gonna help the temperatures kind of be a little more uniform, not gonna get, 10 degrees colder in one rural area next to the other here, like we can get sometimes in these cold weather patterns. But it very well may be, not a guarantee, obviously, but just based on climatology and based on how things have been going, there's a chance, this could be the last freeze we have here in Stark until the fall. So, so enjoy it or not enjoy it while it lasts here. Whatever you guys like here in terms of the meteorology. But we get that wind up that kind of spreads the temperatures around, makes them more uniform, from one spot to another. So the urban and the rural is not going to be as big as that contrast here tonight. So again, that's to pretty much do it. Let me just do that 7-day up one more time for everybody. I'll leave you guys with that here in the Weather Center. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. I know if you see baseball in action here, maybe a little bit chilly for some of you headed out of that series this weekend there in Tallahassee. But hopefully, the Noles can get some more wins and go to 7-0 here on the season. Last year they went to Omaha, so close to winning that national title, but came up just a little bit short there. That Tennessee game. They were so close to winning that first game there, the College World Series. It was double elimination, but that would have changed everything. If maybe that one call, that strikeout would have went their way. They might have, won it all there in Omaha. But another year, another chance. They did have it. Unlike in football, it was double elimination, so they did have some more games to play, and came up a little bit short there in that playoff there in Omaha in 2024. But there's, other things going on as well. As we're looking, Gator and Seminole basketball here, as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things. Some of them, these games, away from home. I know Gators away up at LSU for the men. FSU's at Louisville. There as we're looking at things. So that's kind of storyline there as we kind of look, as we kind of track that game Saturday at Louisville, as Leonard Hamilton's career at FSU gets close to wrapping up. It'll be Saturday at noon on the CW, and then the Sunday game is also on the road for the women on the CW for FSU. They're going to be up at Georgia Tech there. So, so Seminole Saturday and Sunday on the CW network there. So, CW Sports, tune in. Hopefully, Noles can get some wins. Both of them will be challenged, though, on the road against teams that would be, more likely to win, you would think, based on the overall season, at hand. But you never know. I know, you have baseball this weekend here. As we're looking, as we're tracking, they weren't able to play their game against FAMU, I know, earlier this week because of the rain. The Gators are 4-0. They would have been 5-0 potentially if they would have played that game there, but it's rescheduled to March 19th. But the Gators will be hosting Dayton there as we're looking at things there coming up in the timeline. The Gator baseball team, pretty cold out there. I mean, it's Friday night, 6:30. First pitch in Gainesville versus a 5 p.m. First pitch there in Tallahassee for the Noles in their series this weekend in baseball. I mean, that can make a pretty big difference here. in terms of the core era really starting to have an effect there. Maybe not as much on the players, just the fans, really wanting to bundle up as we're looking out there, as we're tracking things. And then, just thinking about here, the situation, with FSU baseball, they're taking on Penn this weekend here in baseball. And then I know softball, they're going to have, their different games continue. And FSU softball, they, are doing really good. They're gonna, my alma mater there, FSU, all the different teams there I wrote for FSU. And then, as we're looking at things, they're taking on different teams this weekend, including, had the game there on Thursday where they won over FAMU 11-0 in 5 innings. And it's a Joanne Graff Classic mini games all weekend there in Tallahassee for FSU softball. Some of those games later on will be core. Then in that sunlight, that's for sure. So bundle up if you're going out. Pretty cool for, these type of teams, when we're used to being, with these games later on in the year, you're in a situation where things will definitely feel, a little bit warmer here, not a lot warmer here. We're worried about weather delays because of rain and the like. But I know Gator softball, they're headed out and they're taking in some games there in Arizona. I see that game against North Florida for Gator softball earlier this week postponed. That weather playing a role in different things. So a lot, more sports. And we had all, that football talk and basketball and how those different, games going on with baseball and softball in play. So that's always, pretty exciting as it kind of correlates with March Madness for the men and the women here coming up in the next, several weeks to come. So that's kind of the storyline right now. That's to do it for tonight. I know we kind of went a little bit longer on that, but wanted to kind of get all that in. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. We'll be back next Thursday with our next one. We'll update again off on Tuesday.